Let's talk a little bit about some contract stuff. This is always interesting, and I think people always go back to the Monday Night Wars when they hear about things like this. Eric, I'm not sure if you saw, but Andrade El Idolo, my former brother-in-law, he was quietly released from WWE, I don't know, several weeks ago. And there was rumor and innuendo that he had ghosted them, and there were other reports that perhaps he had not one, not two, but three failed wellness violations. I don't know exactly what the real story was, but that's what the chatter was. And then all of a sudden, he shows up on Dynamite under a mask and he attacks John or Kenny Omega. So I think fans immediately assumed, hey, he's been with CML in the past. He's been with New Japan in the past. He's going to be in this Forbidden Door. It'll be Andrade versus Kenny Omega in St. Louis. Then we never saw him again. And the report came out, I believe, Raj, that WWE sent a cease and desist. I guess there's a new version of these contracts. Well, the TKO contract is different from the old one. What's going on there, Raj?
Well, this is the thing, is normally when there's a WWE release that we've always seen, there's a 90-day non-compete. And so I think a lot of people assume it means you're released and then you have 90 days, right? But that's not the case. You're still under contract with WWE for those 90 days. Now, was that unclear on Andrade's contract? Was it, because almost every other contract has had that. So that's where it gets a little weird. So yeah, Andrade appearing then on Dynamite would be a breach of contract because he technically would have still been under WWE contract at that point. Now, WWE having this clause that there's a 1-year non-compete, now that's where it gets dicey, because is he being paid during that time? Because that changes things a little bit. But if you look at non-complete clauses over time, you'll see a bunch of instances where, like, a 1 to 2 year contract, a non-compete is deemed enforceable. But then once you get longer and longer than that, that's where it gets dicey. Brock Lesnar famously, in 2005, he agreed to leave WWE to go start an NFL career and agreed to sign a 10-year non-compete. Obviously, the NFL thing didn't work out, and Brock fought in court, and it was dropped. So there are going to be terms and contract durations where the judges are going to be like, this isn't fair. Now,
and so much of it depends on, Raj, and I've been on both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've only been on one side of it. I've never tried to sue anybody or get out of a non-compete personally,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been involved in the process, and every jurisdiction is different.
Mm-hmm.
Every judge in every jurisdiction is going to, so obviously in WWE's case, they're probably using Connecticut as, the state in which these things need to be fought out, or Florida, wherever it is. California, for example, good luck enforcing a non-compete in California.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Florida, good luck.
Alabama,
try enforcing that shit. In certain states, you'll get laughed out of court. Judge won't even talk to you. But there are states that will. So I think, and again, I mentioned my agent, Nick, he had a really good breakdown of this, the non-compete scenario. And it really comes down to, do you have the money and the time to challenge it? If you do, you'll probably win. You'll burn a bridge in the process, and you'll blow probably 150 to 250 grand in the process, depending on who you are and how hard you have to fight. But you'll probably win. Most people aren't willing to fight it. They'll just write it out. But it'll get challenged eventually. And I've had attorneys where I wanted to challenge it and I wanted to fight, that were attorneys that were working for me. Just tell me it's not worth it. Don't fight it. It's not worth it. Chances are you're going to lose. So somewhere along the line, somebody's going to challenge it, and it'll get modified.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been on the same boat, Eric. I've sold websites in the past and businesses where I'd have non-competes that vary from 2 to 5 years, and they'd be so vague that sometimes an opportunity would come up, and I'm like, well, I feel like this shouldn't be upheld under this non-compete, but actually going to a lawyer and fighting it just wasn't worth it, because the amount of time that it would take to eventually even get out of it, it's just not worth it. So, again, it might. Again, we don't know if Andrade is getting paid or not. We don't know if they're actually upholding this 1-year non-compete or if it's just in there and they're, going through their legal department to see what's going to happen.
How did he end up on TV if he was under contract and had a non-compete?
Right. Yeah.
From the AEW side, how does that even happen?
I think they assumed that WWE just cut all contact with him when they released him and didn't enforce or didn't have a 90-day non-compete, which, again, just knowing how WWE has done business for the longest time, they've always had that in there when they release talent.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So it threw me off guard too. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it was just because of the disciplinary issue and they just wanted their, to be done with it. So, again, I don't know if it's something that Andrade misunderstood or he didn't have his lawyers take a look at it, but it did seem very unusual.
I mean, I can understand Andrade not necessarily being fluent in contract language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half the contracts I sign, I thank God I have attorneys because I can't get through it.
Yeah.
Or retain half of it, even if I do get through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand how the talent might have gotten confused.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stretch, but yeah, let's assume that he was just confused or didn't realize it for some reason. You still have the AEW side. I mean, they've got a responsibility to vet this, knowing that he was previously under contract and knowing that previously WWE was very strict about their non-competes. That's the part that makes me go, how the hell did that happen? Did you just take Andrade's word for it?
Yeah, that's the really confusing side. Is you would think their legal team would have been able to capture that part of the contract, because again, every WWE release that they brought on has had that stipulation in there. Now, obviously, if someone's contract expires, then they don't have that non-compete.
Right.
But if they were released, that's always been there. So I am surprised that they missed that. And I don't know if it was just one of those things that Andrade assured them and they just felt like they didn't need to take a look at it. But yeah, that's something you don't want to do because you could get sued for that as well.
Yeah, there's tortious interference. There's all kinds of potential shit that actually costs, 3 times more. So if there's damages and you can prove damages and it's tortious interference, now you're going to triple them. Triple those damages. So it is a serious issue and one that is surprising to be honest from AEW's perspective.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to see any resolution on this anytime soon. I mean, my preliminary conversation, and it was just by text, was with Mike Dawkins, our gimmick attorney around here, and he sort of laid out the practicality of, hey, you could sue and push back here, but realistically, WWE has seemingly unlimited resources to fight this, and you're going to be on the sidelines the entire time anyway. So what is the risk reward here versus just waiting it out and finding some sort of middle ground? But I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't pretend to have any inside information, Eric, but if I was to venture a guess, it feels like if you were Andrade and you're using your wrestling brain, you're thinking, hey man, maybe I just reach out to someone in AEW or I show up at the show and I say, hey, I'm free and clear. I can appear. Let's do something. And if he left on good terms and they have seen several other WWE contracts in the past, maybe they just made the assumption that, hey, he was good to go and we'll figure it out later. And I guess that's cease and desist. If that's just a guess on my end, but if that's really the way it went down, it doesn't like we're going to see him anytime soon. Do you think, Raj, it would be wise? Because I was sort of hinting at an individual performer would not want to sue WWE. Could this be something Tony Khan wanted to take interest in battling himself? Because obviously, if we're going to go dollar for dollar and spend on this silliness, that feels like WWF versus WCW, not necessarily former contractor versus parent company. Would this be a fight that would be interesting to Tony, or would he not pursue that, in your opinion?
I mean, just legal proceedings just cost so much money, and we've seen like over the past year, Tony like trying to cut expenses, doing these residencies for Dynamite to save money. So he doesn't seem like he's in overspending mode. There have been a bunch of free agents that have opened up that he didn't sign that I think a couple of years ago he might have taken a look at. So I just don't think it's a fight worth fighting for him. There's not much to gain out of it.
And I think in addition to the money, and I mean, Tony, if he wanted to spend the money, he could certainly spend the money and be competitive with WWE in the process when it comes to legal fees. But he's going to have to sit through depositions and discovery. Tony Khan does not want to sit through discovery or depositions. It's, even if you can afford it, it's a time suck. It's going to take up so much of your time and focus. I just don't think Tony wants it. I just can't imagine it would be worth it to him. This is not, I mean, it's no offense to Andrade. I don't mean this to sound like it's going to sound, because I can't help it, but this is not a guy that you're going to spend $500,000 in legal fees fighting for.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that you're going to do it just for Andrade. I just mean in the future, for all future, contracts in the wrestling space, if someone leaves, because I mean, let's be real, as you said, it's going to be really hard to enforce in those individual states. But Eric, you've known a guy pretty well who had a wealthy billionaire in the background who sort of helped fund his legal case, and it worked out for everybody. So maybe Tony Khan is going to take a page out of that book. I don't know. I don't have any inside information.
It would be, you know what? I would be fascinated by that if that were to happen. That'd be an interesting one to watch, because it would end up creating a precedent. It would end up changing the way the business operates, potentially, or potentially Tony get his ass kicked to just walk away with an empty basket of an empty fruit basket. But it'd be interesting to see. I'd like to. I don't want to say I want to see a challenge, but if it comes, I'll be watching it closely because it'll be very impactful.
Just Eric, one more thing. I'm sorry. Just one thing. I don't know if Tony would want to be successful in this case, because remember, this is a breach of contract. This is a contracted WWE guy showing up on their show, and I'm sure Tony doesn't want a contracted AEW guy just feeling like they can show up on WWE TV.
There's that.
So you don't want that breach of contract thing. It can go both ways. So I just don't think you would want, that's something you want to happen to yourself.
It's a slippery slope. We also found out earlier this week that Samantha Irvin, who used to be a fantastic announcer for WWE, she still has a year left on her non-compete. She's been gone from the company for a year, Eric, but I guess that was part of the terms of her release. Is that the way you understood it, Raj? Yeah,
that's the way I understood it. It kind of seemed like a shortened version of the Brock Lesnar deal that he made when he was able to get out of his contract. And again, 2 years, it just seems like a long time, but it's one of those things when you agree to it to get out of your contract. I just think that's a tough one to fight. I'm sure there are some states where, like Eric mentioned, there are some states like California and other states where they probably let you out of that, but there are others that won't. And
why would she sign a 2-year non-compete? Why would she sign that?
Because the story goes, she didn't want to be an announcer. She wanted to be more involved and be a wrestling persona and be a character and be on the show. She didn't want to, quote unquote, just be the announcer. And so I guess she wanted to just, if they weren't going to give her that opportunity, she wanted to start doing that sooner rather than later. She just didn't enjoy being an announcer.
Okay.
It sounds like she had some outside projects.
And was willing to sit out for 2 years.
Yes.
Good for her.
Good for her indeed.
Jacob Stimmel, and I'm from Bulls Gap, Tennessee. I was looking for a house, and Jason, when I talked to him, it seemed like he knew a lot about what he was talking about, and he was a big help with anything I ever needed. It was my first time buying a house, so I didn't know what I was getting into. It was a good experience. I closed actually a week earlier than planned. Anytime I needed help with anything or had any questions, he'd answer right away and help me learn a lot too. I would gladly recommend anybody. Y'all are a big help, and if I ever go to buy a house again, I'd go with y'all again. My name is Jacob Stimmel, and I got into my first home with the team at saveatconrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.